Every sign and every house, a journey starts and we allow the universe so vast and true. AstroViktor, it's here for you.
Hi, my dear Astro family. Today we are going to be looking at an asteroid called Apollo. Its astrological number is 1862. And the reason why we are going to be looking at it is because it will be spending a year, at least 9 months in the sign of Leo. So that's a super long period of time. It's going to be affecting your chart in the Leo cusp of your chart in the next 9 months. And this is one of the asteroids that is going to be shaping 2026, by the way, and of course the remainder of 2025 as well. The other asteroids that are going to be very prominent next year, one of them is Psyche in the sign of Gemini. Then we're going to have Juno, for example, in Aquarius and Capricorn, but also Vesta and Pallas will be triggering the Eris cusp of your chart. If you would like to know a little bit more about these asteroids and how they will be impacting you in 2026, then I have prepared a minimum 2.5 hour long yearly forecast for each rising sign, which is available for purchase on my website. But if you need some personal guidance, then you can book a reading with me as well on AstroViktor.com. And I would like to make another announcement. If you would like to study astrology, then I have put together a super detailed house rulers in each house's course. This is going to be approximately about 20 weeks long. So this is a big dedication from you. But this is going to be all about each house rulers in certain houses. So for example, you have got the third house ruler in the seventh house. What does that mean? This course is designed for beginners as well as advanced astrologers who need a deeper insight about these house positions. Basically, this is the bread and butter of astrology. So I've never seen a complex course like this put together before on any of the channels. So surely I wouldn't miss a chance to take this, because this is going to take your practice a lot further. But let's get started with Apollo. So firstly, I want to give you the dates. Apollo is going to move into the sign of Leo on September 4th, 2025. Then on the 8th of December, it's going to turn retrograde, 7th or 8th of December, depending on where you are. Then it's going to go back to the sign of Cancer on March 17th. And March 27th, it goes direct on 29 degree of Cancer. April 7th, it goes back into the sign of Leo. And then on July 18th, it will leave the sign of Leo. So as you can see, this is a longer period of transit. Therefore, this is super important. It is especially important if it's touching any of those sensitive degrees in your chart that I have mentioned before. So basically, let me give you the sensitive degrees. It's the 29 degree of Cancer, the 27 degree of Leo. And you can look at the opposing signs as well. So 27 degree of Leo, 27 degree of Aquarius, or 29 degree of Cancer, and 29 degree of Capricorn. Because this is where basically the planets stations, direct or retrograde. This is the reason why these are super sensitive degrees. But let's just talk about this a little bit more. So who is Apollo to start with? Well, Apollo is the sun god. In many astrological traditions, the sun is a central and vital planetary body, of course, while the ancient Greek sun god was Helios, and he was later called as Apollo. And the core symbolism of Apollo is like the sun represents the ego, the consciousness, the vitality, the core of one's identity. It's pretty much a life-giving force that shines light on all parts of your chart. And Apollo is an asteroid. And Apollo is considered to be something to do with like creative self-expression. So Apollo asteroid points to where you can shine, you can inspire, to bring light to others. It signifies your drive for creative expression, usually through intellectual or artistic endeavors. Apollo also represents clarity and truth as well. So where it shows in your natal chart by house position, where you have a natural ability to bring clarity or to understand the situation, but also where you are the seeker of truth, where you can use your intellect to illuminate a path for yourself. Apollo is a leader. It's an authority figure, very similarly to the sun. So it shows your potentials. It's basically a vocational asteroid. It shows where you might possess an authoritative presence or the ability to command attention and respect. Apollo is also so connected to healing as well. I mean, we tend to be looking at Chiron positions quite a lot when it comes to healing, but actually in ancient times, even though these asteroids were not discovered before, I mean, around that time, but from a god and deity point of view, they were looking for Apollo or Asclepius rather than Chiron. So Apollo was a healer. So in a chart, this asteroid placement can also indicate where you have got healing to do, potentially medicine or counseling or just basically creative expression. Now, a little bit more about Apollo, because Apollo is also could be talking to, I mean, he was also the god of music as well. But it can also show in your chart where you can take something for granted or where you might show ignorance to your own detriment as well. So, of course, when you focus on that part of your chart, you become a master. If you're not focusing, it's a blind spot, basically. So, focusing on your Apollo can become a huge asset for you. And if you ignore it to any of, like, to a degree, then basically it could be somewhere where people might take advantage of you. Also, I would be focusing on conjunctions to Apollo in your natal chart. If it conjuncts within about 3 degrees with a natal point of your chart, you can get quite obsessive about that planet or point, or it could show imbalances, or where you are trying to kind of create harmony, for example. But this could be a planet that you also ignore or you focus on it quite a lot. So it's kind of like getting wrapped around that planet quite a lot, basically. Sextiles and trines might not be the most prominent when it comes to Apollo, but squares and oppositions can also be something that might or that should draw your attention, because those might be something that it's difficult for you to balance out. So you either totally ignore or totally obsess with. So in transit, Apollo might show where we might be ignorant or we take things for granted, or you are kind of like blind a little bit. So for example, it's going to be moving into my sixth house. I can become very blinded when it comes to health, for example. So I might ignore the health or I get completely obsessed with that. So that's how I would like you to look at your own natal chart as well. And you can even look at if you have got Apollo in synastry also in your chart, especially by conjunction, because that could also show that we might be getting obsessed with that person's ability. So how to find Apollo in your natal chart? Like I said, its astrological number is 1862, and you can go on astro.com and then the extended chart selection. Click on the additional objects, just type in the 1862 in the manual entry box, and then you can generate your chart, and then you will be able to find where it is there. So on one hand, Do let me know in the comment box below where Apollo is and then how you see that obsession element or the ignorant element of it, because I do want to know. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about Apollo, and especially the mythology of Apollo is actually super rich. Like, remember, he is very diverse. He's the god of music and also represents prophecy as well, healing and the light. So one of the mythology that is connected to him is birth of Delos. And basically, Apollo's birth is the foundational myth that explains his ties to the sacred island of Delos. So his mother was Leto and his father was Zeus. And Leto was one of the lovers of Zeus, actually. And then when she became pregnant with Apollo and his twin sister Artemis or Diana, Zeus' wife Hera got jealous and cursed the mom and forbidding any land on earth from giving her shelter to give birth. And later was wandering the world, seeking for refugee, basically. And she was pursued by a monster, a python. Of course, Hera had sent him after her. And then finally, she found this island. It was a barren floating island of Delos. And that was neither a true land nor a stationary place. So it wasn't subject to Hera's curse. And Delos offered her sanctuary. And in some versions, actually, was promised a grand temple in return for her help. So after a very long, difficult labor, Hera made her life even harder, and because she detained the goddess of childbirth to help her. So later gave birth to Artemis first, who then helped her mother deliver Apollo. So that would be the story, one of the story. Now the next story is Apollo and the Python. So because Apollo is also the god of order, and he has got a connection to the oracle at Delphi. So we had this python who had been sent by Hera to pursue Leto during her pregnancy. And then just days after his birth, Apollo tried to seek vengeance for his mother's suffering and then tracked down and killed the python with his bow or with his arrows. And basically, this serpent had been the guardian of the oracle of Delphi, which was the sacred site of prophecy belonging to the goddess Gaia. And by slaying the python, Apollo claimed the oracle for his own. And this is how he is connected to prophecies. But also, Apollo has got a story with Daphne as well. Well, that's one of the love stories, one of the most significant love stories connected to him, which had a tragic nature, by the way. So after defeating the python, Apollo started knocking around Cupid, and he kind of took his bow and arrow, and that's what happened there. And then Apollo got punished for his arrogance. Eros shot two arrows, a golden, like a love-inducing arrow into Apollo's heart, and the lead as well, which is love-repairing arrow, into nymph Daphne. So Apollo was instantly overcome with this desperate, all-consuming love for Daphne. However, Daphne, obviously she was struck by the lead arrow, felt only revulsion for him, and she kept fleeing away. So he kept chasing her like relentlessly, and Daphne was just running all the time. So as Apollo was about to catch her, she cried out to her father, the river of God, for help. And in a final desperate act, she was transformed into a laurel tree to escape him. So Apollo was mourning his loss. Um, and then he started writing some poets or creating some music. He wanted to symbolize his love for Daphne. So that's how he became the patron of art as well. Another story that is connected to Apollo is with Cassandra, which was also a little bit tragical. I mean, Cassandra was a beautiful Trojan princess, and of course, his attention got caught by her, and then he offered her the gift of prophecy in exchange for her love. And Cassandra accepted this, but then rejected his advances. And then he got I mean, he felt enraged by this betrayal. So, but he couldn't take the divine gift back. So he cursed her. And basically, the curse was that no one is ever gonna believe her, even if her prophecies were true. So these are some of the stories that we might want to kind of remember. So one of the things that Apollo, like I said, he's connected with art, healing, the light, but he was also a brilliant archer as well. He was a bringer. So he is a masterful archer. His bow and arrow are not just tools for hunting or a symbol of scales, they are also weapons or divine retribution as well. So, for example, in one case, Apollo sent plague upon the Greek army during the Trojan War, and then he did that because he got angered. He got disrespected by one of the Greek priests, and that's why he unleashed his arrows, uh, basically causing widespread death and suffering. Also, he's the god of order and law as well. So, I mean, he represents the principles of bringing clarity and structure to chaos. This is something that is seen positive, but also it can manifest as something rigid or unyielding as well, or, the control matters. I mean, he was a ruthless military leader at the same time. I mean, it's about imposing strict discipline, um, or, establishing a new order through force. So his actions can be quite brutal as well. Um, Also, it's moving into the sign of Leo. So, on one hand, this could really talk to us about someone who might be taking the spotlight, for example. Maybe this is a political leader, or a political leader is going, like a political leader's pride is going to be hurt or questioned. I mean, Apollo pops up often in military leaders' charts, by the way. On one hand, because they are brilliant strategists, but on the other hand, they crave glory as well, or the recognition that comes with the conquest, especially if they win. And the political figures are all about their own, personal power and the collective power, as well as kind of like being legendary in a way. Often that's what they want to do. So what I'm trying to say is that Apollo is not just the god of music and light, but he's a very complex figure, and he is all about power. From a creative genius, he is also a destructive force as well. So, and by the way, Apollo was bisexual too. And bisexuality is not just about sexuality, but really it shows like a dual nature of healing. For example, on one hand, he is the bringer of plague. On the other hand, he is the god of healing as well. Or, on one hand, he's a fighter as well as a protector. So, he's also the god who can ward things off. He can be evil and then he can be a healer as well. I mean, he is the father of medicine as well. Actually, his father, I mean, he's got a son called Asclepius, which is the god of medicine. So he was the father of Asclepius. So of course he's got a lot of medical knowledge, and Asclepius learned from his own father as well. So maybe Apollo can even show in your chart where you have got natural healing abilities as well. But the shadow side of it is that where we can be reckless when it comes to our healing potentials. So now, what we might want to be looking at is Apollo's meaning in the sign of Leo and what that might show. So positively speaking, I think it's going to be heightening creativity and self-expression quite a lot. It's a surge of energy in personal projects, and it's about building confidence, feeling inspired to share your talents with the world, whether through art, music, writing, performance, or even healing as well. This is about strong leadership. So I think it might be empowering you to take on leadership roles, especially if it goes through your second, sixth, or 10th house. When it comes to the creative part, it might be something to do with the fifth and 11th houses. But also maybe it's about building your own confidence or being able to influence others, especially if it's second, 11th, or fifth house. I think Apollo in Leo can be a great time to launch new initiatives or lead a team or stepping into the spotlight. Again, with fifth, 11th, or 10th house. I think it gives a lot of charisma and even success as well. I mean, remember, Leo is the sign of royalties and confidence. So this is about magnetic charm and drawing people into your life. So this could be very beneficial, for example, if Apollo transits your fifth and seventh house, because that might be showing some successful relationships, and you are seen, you are appreciated for your unique qualities, especially if Apollo goes through your first house. Even it can be all about vitality and confidence as well. So especially if it goes through your first house, you can feel more energetic, optimistic, self-assured, which of course can impact your health and well-being positively. Again, potentially in the first sixth house, that might be health-related topics. However, some of the negative impact of that is that we can get very egotistical, very arrogant as well. So this is an inflated ego combination. Remembering that Apollo will be in the sign of Leo until July 18th, 2026, and Jupiter will join him as well. They're not going to be making a conjunction, by the way, but they are going to be co-witnessing the same sign. So the inflated ego could be something that might become a focal point. We might be too focused on our needs and desires, or we just need constant validation. This could really indicate bossiness and dominance as well. Like I'm a type of boss who is never wrong, but I cannot be wronged. And there could be a struggle to listen to others or insisting of having my own way. And of course, that could create some friction in your personal as well as in your professional life. I mean, Leo is super dramatic as well. So, this can get amplified. Again, especially when Jupiter joins the club as well, there could be a lot of big shows, but also there could be a lot of big drama as well. Someone who demands attention all the time, and I want to be appreciated, I want to be seen. It's an unhealthy way of getting constant attention and approval from others. So on a global level, I can imagine, an influential leader who is going to be emerging somehow, or the spotlight is going to be on a world leader, whether it's politics, business, or art, or even entertainment industry. I mean, Apollo played a very significant role actually in Renaissance. So I can imagine the or the birth of, some cultural or artistic endeavors, like it's a boom in a new film or music or literature. Or there could be a lot of bold and daring initiatives as well. There could be like very ambitious projects set by governments, or maybe nations are launching bold initiatives in technology exploration, or there could be a lot of focus on health. So there could be a global focus on public health initiatives, medical breakthroughs. Negatively speaking, especially because Apollo will be opposing Pluto 3 times. So there could be, you know, this like quite a global focus on superficiality, or, you know, a grand display of power, wealth, national pride, or celebrities have to be worshipped, basically. So there could be a spotlight on a celebrity, and maybe it's a made-up one, you know, maybe it's not like a made-up story. That's what I kind of mean by that. So altogether, with the Pluto and Apollo opposition, I can even imagine a political figure, a political figure who might be, for example, struggling with some medical conditions as well. I wouldn't be shocked about such thing. And of course, because Apollo and Pluto will be in opposition, there is a core conflict. My personal desires versus the desires of others. So there's a confrontation here where, you know, my individual leader's power is being challenged by some collective demand. Or we've got an established order and it's going to get questioned or revolutionized by a new order. But you know, maybe on a personal level, this could talk to you about healing the ego as well. So this opposition can be asking us to confront our own issues with ego and pride. And why do we need the external validation all the time? So hopefully this is the healthy deconstruction of the self, and then makes us a little bit more humble or more service orientated. However, negatively, it could talk to us about ego meltdown and power struggles as well. You know, someone who is very attached to their status and it can crumble, or their status could go through a severe crisis situation. Most likely, it's in the political world anyway. It's kind of like being cancelled out, it's being publicly discredited by someone, and it makes me super furious. Or, you know, maybe it's someone who gets the pressure of the opposition, and, you know, I become more rigid and like a more rigid authority figure. Because what happens is that you feel that the control is slipping through your finger, so you want to double down on your power, and therefore we can become ruthless and manipulative. So we might see that in the world as well, unfortunately. And but also on a global level, you know, I can imagine that there are going to be innovations made towards, you know, humanity matters or solving global problems like sustainable energy or ethical AI or all those type of things. But it can really talk to us about the rise of the demagogue as well. You know, this is probably one of the most dangerous scenarios of all. You know, it's very much about someone who is kind of like, you know, appealing to the public's desire. And then, you know, they gain the power, they promise a lot of things, and then it turns out to be, you know, not true. It could really talk to us about kind of anarchy as well. Or the exposure of certain type of corruptions. That's exactly Pluto's job anyway. So it's exposing a political leader. So that's Apollo. Very briefly of what we might be experiencing, but do let me know where Apollo is in your natal chart and also where it transits. And what you might want to be watching out for is that, for example, I've got Apollo natally in the sign of Cancer, but now Apollo will be transiting Leo, which is my sixth house. So try to bring together the fifth and the sixth house meanings, because natally that Apollo is calibrated, let's say, to be artistic, to be on a stage. And maybe with the sixth house, I'm meant to be fixing it, or I'm meant to be fixing my camera, which by the way is not working on Zoom for some reason. So I've been in contact with the technical department for the last few days to get it fixed. Every other application is working, but Zoom doesn't. So something is wrong with it. Okay, so we can do such thing with your natal chart. So good luck, everyone, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
Every sign and every house, a journey starts and we allow the universe so vast and true. AstroViktor, it's here for you.